Well, since we're talking about dragons, Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion are the last dragons in the known world, but they are descended from a long line of Valyrian dragons, the origins of which are somewhat debated, including the blood bond that they seemingly have with Valyrians, including our Targaryens. Now, there are many theories and legends about the origins of dragons, so let's go over a few of the big ones. The Valyrians, who were known for knowing things about dragons, claim that dragons arose from the 14 Flames, the volcanoes that ringed Valyria and the Valyrian freehold, and that they just sprang up magically from there, and then made friends with them. Then, of course, there was the dragon origin legend from Karth, in which they believed that there used to be two moons, and then one of the moons drifted too close to the sun, and then it cracked open, and out sprang a bunch of dragons, and the dragons drank in the fire of the sun, and now we have fire-breathing dragons running around. Woohoo. Now, while those two legends are certainly interesting and fun in their own ways, my personal favorite comes from Ashai, in which there is this belief, at least in ancient writings from Ashai, that dragons originated from the Shadowlands beyond Ashai, and that an ancient, unnamed group of people were able to somehow train and subdue the dragons, and then they brought them to Valyria, and essentially trained and showed the Valyrians how to do it before, mystically departing, never to be heard from again. I don't know about you, but I want to know who the hell those people were if they were real. Regardless of which legend is true or might have a nugget of the truth, though, the thing that we can all agree on is that eventually dragons came to populate Valyria. Valyria was the hotbed of dragons, if you will. Now, while there are writings and even archaeological evidence in-world that suggests that dragons, lived kind of all over Essos, and I think possibly Westeros as well, eventually, for whatever reason, all the dragons seem to concentrate in Valyria under the control of the Valyrians. Now, all of our assumptions about kind of why that happened can be, traced back to the Valyrians' practices of blood and fire magic. It's heavily implied and speculated that the Valyrians were able to use, this blood and fire magic, this blood and fire sorcery, to basically, ensorcel the dragons into some sort of, connected bond and relationship. Now, this bond between the Valyrians and dragons becomes an interesting point of contention because, again, the implication seems to be that this was done through sorcery, but the Valyrians themselves claim that they are actually descended from the dragons somehow, which is supposedly what makes the Valyrians so unique and a higher race or whatever, the weird blood supremacy bullshit. And so this is where we quite literally get the phrase blood of the dragon. The Valyrians believe that they literally have dragon blood within them. And the interesting thing is that they might be half right. Because if they did use a combination of blood and fire magic to subdue the dragons and subjugate them, there is the direct possibility that it was done through some sort of commingling of the blood, which would mean that there is something to the fact that you need to be descendant of particular Valyrians to be able to have that connection with the dragons. Because it's essentially the result of this unnatural meddling with blood magic. And this could also provide a bit of an explanation why in a lot of the Targaryen history there are unfortunately a lot of pregnancies that don't come full to term. And a lot of times those pregnancies that don't come to term, the results of them, when examined, are seen to have these weird dragon-like deformities and scales. And so it begs the question, is this because there is this, blood magic bond going on with the dragons, and this is the result of it? And this idea that Valyrian dragons are the result of this blood magic meddling also lends itself to one of the other theories about the origin of dragons, which was put forth by Septon Barth. He is a historical figure in the early Targaryen rule who basically wanted to study dragons. He wanted to understand them, and he has a lot of in-world writings about dragons and their nature and his speculation on them. Which in a recent blog post, George mentioned that Septon Barth actually had a lot of it correct. But anyway, Septon Barth's theory is that the dragons were actually created by the Valyrians themselves through magic and the combining of magic with other creatures. Particularly wyverns from Sothorius. Sothorius is the third continent that no one goes to because it's all thick jungles filled with these enormous creatures giant King Kong apes and giant basilisks and snakes and wyverns. And the wyverns of Sothorios are distinct from dragons in this universe because they do not breathe fire. They tend to be, I think, like a little small and a little more sluggish. But Barth's theory is that like the Valyrian blood mages took wyverns and basically did all this like blood and fire magic on them, and that's what gave them the ability to breathe fire, and then that's what like tied them to the Valyrians, you know, through this magical connection. And the irony of all this is, you know, if it is true that the blood mages are the ones who created the dragons, or at the very least, like, used this blood magic to thoroughly connect them to the Valyrians in general, it also may have been what caused their undoing. Because one of the big theories about the Doom is that basically, like, they took the magic too far. They made their world too unstable, the volcanoes that were around them too unstable, until it all came crashing down. And sure, maybe a faceless man like helped like push them in that direction, but still, I think like, you know, that prevailing theory that it was the blood mages and their like constant meddling that was their undoing kind of makes the most sense, because, you know, you build yourself up with unsavory means, and eventually that's going to catch up with you. But don't worry, because Big Daddy Balerion escaped Valyria, came to Westeros, and then we got a whole line of dragons that we're totally not going to watch go away in House of the Dragon. It'll be fine. Okay, bye.